What if I told you fear isn't real? That it's just a shadow your mind creates to keep you small? And that right now, you could erase it forever if you do this one thing. Fear is a liar. It tells you you're not ready, that you might fail, that people will laugh. But here's the truth. Every great empire, every fortune, every legend, they all started with someone who refused to let fear win. Today, we're going to kill yours. For good. Force fear is not real. It's manufactured. Fear is a ghost. It has no body, no shape, no substance. You can't hold it in your hand. You can't trap it in a cage. It exists only in the space between your ears. A whisper in the dark, a shadow on the wall, a story you tell yourself again and again until you believe it's real. But here's the truth. Fear is manufactured. It's built, and what can be built can be torn down. Think about a newborn child. It doesn't fear failure. It doesn't fear rejection. It doesn't lie awake at night worrying about what might go wrong. These fears are learned. They're collected over years from sharp words, from small humiliations, from watching others shrink back from life. But just as these fears were programmed into you, they can be erased. Every great conqueror, every empire builder, every person who ever changed the course of history faced the same fears you do. The difference, they understood something most never grasped. Fear only has the power you give it. The moment you see fear for what it really is, just a thought, just a feeling, just a trick of the mind, it loses its grip on you. Imagine standing at the edge of a high cliff. Your body reacts, your heart pounds, your palms sweat, your legs tremble. This is natural fear. It's your body's way of keeping you alive. But now imagine standing in front of a room full of people, about to speak. Your body reacts the same way, heart pounding, palms sweating, legs trembling. This is manufactured fear. Your mind has tricked your body into reacting to a threat that doesn't exist. The warriors of old knew this. When they stood on the battlefield, their bodies screamed at them to run. But they didn't listen. They moved forward anyway. Not because they didn't feel fear, but because they refused to let it decide their fate. They acted, and in that action, fear dissolved like smoke in the wind. This is your power too. Fear isn't some unbeatable monster. It's a paper tiger, terrifying until you push through it. Every time you act despite fear, you prove to yourself that fear is just an illusion. And each time you do this, the illusion becomes weaker, until one day you realize it has no power over you at all. The process is simple, though not easy. Recognize fear is just a thought. See it for the illusion it is. Act anyway. That's it. That's the secret every great achiever has known. They didn't conquer fear by waiting for it to go away. They conquered it by moving forward while it was still screaming in their ear. So the next time fear whispers that you're not ready, that you might fail, that people might laugh, remember, these are just thoughts. They're not real. And they certainly don't get to decide what you do with your life. 2. The two types of fear, and why one will destroy you. There are two kinds of fear in this world. One keeps you alive. The other steals your life. One is your protector. The other is your jailer. And right now, whether you realize it or not, you're choosing which one controls you. The first fear is primal. It's the jolt you feel when you almost step into traffic. The freeze that hits when you hear a loud noise in the dark. This fear is hardwired into your bones, and it keeps you from walking off cliffs, from touching fire, from making deadly mistakes. This fear is good. This fear is necessary. But the second fear, this is the enemy. This is the fear of embarrassment, the fear of effort, the fear of what people might think. This fear doesn't protect you. It paralyzes you. It doesn't keep you safe. It keeps you small. And while the first fear is rare and sharp, the second fear is constant, gnawing, relentless. Most people live their entire lives ruled by this second fear. They choose comfort over growth because effort scares them. They stay silent because speaking up might draw attention. They follow the crowd because standing apart feels dangerous. And in doing so, they trade their potential for temporary safety, never realizing the terrible price they're paying. Think about it. They fear embarrassment more than regret. They fear effort more than wasted potential. They fear strangers' opinions more than their own unhappiness. This is how lives get wasted, not in one dramatic moment, but in 1,000 small surrenders, day after day, choice after choice. They let the wrong kind of fear make their decisions for them. The warriors, the builders, the conquerors, they faced the same fears, but they made a different choice. They understood that while you can't eliminate fear, you can choose which fear guides you. Will it be the fear of danger, or the fear of a life unlived, the fear of action, or the fear of inaction? Here's the brutal truth. Toxic fear doesn't just hold you back, it kills you slowly. It steals your dreams one by one until one day you wake up and realize it's too late. The chances you didn't take, the words you didn't say, the life you didn't live. But it doesn't have to be this way. The moment you recognize toxic fear for what it is, not your protector but your prison, you can start making different choices. You can start measuring fear differently, not by how uncomfortable it makes you feel, but by what it costs you not to act. Because in the end, we don't regret the things we did and failed at. We regret the things we didn't do because we were afraid. So ask yourself right now, which fear is driving your life? The one that protects or the one that imprisons? Your answer determines everything. How fear tricks you into staying stuck. Fear is a master of disguise. It rarely comes at you head on, screaming about failure or disaster. That would be too obvious. Instead, it works in shadows, wearing masks that make it seem reasonable, even wise. It whispers, just wait a little longer. It dresses itself up as patience, calling itself being prepared. It poses as realism, saying, let's be practical. But make no mistake, this isn't wisdom. This is fear in costume. The most dangerous thing about fear isn't when it shouts. It's when it convinces you that listening to it is the smart thing to do, that waiting is strategy, that hesitation is prudence. Day after day, it talks you into staying exactly where you are, while making you believe you're being responsible. Meanwhile, your dreams gather dust. Your potential goes untapped. Your life becomes smaller, not because of any real limitation, but because fear convinced you to impose those limitations on yourself. Every morning you hit snooze instead of working on your goals, that's fear. Every time you research endlessly instead of taking the first step, that's fear. Every moment you spend polishing instead of launching, that's fear. It's not preparation, it's procrastination in a three-piece suit. Here's how the trick works. Fear knows that if it can get you to delay just once, it can get you to delay forever. One I'll start tomorrow becomes 10. One I'm not ready yet becomes a lifetime of waiting for perfect conditions that never come. The more you listen, the stronger fear grows, until its voice is so loud you can't hear your own thoughts anymore. But there's a way out. It's not complicated, but it requires something most people aren't willing to give. Immediate action, not tomorrow, not when you feel ready, today, right now. The moment you recognize fear's whisper for what it is, not wisdom but weakness, you must attack. Not with grand gestures, but with small decisive movements that prove fear wrong. Send that email you've been drafting in your head. Make that call you've been putting off. Start that project you've been planning for months. Do it now, while fear is still talking, because that's when it's weakest. Fear thrives on hesitation. It starves on action. Every great achiever in history faced this same battle. The difference wasn't that they didn't feel fear. The difference was that they recognized fear's disguises and refused to be fooled. When fear said wait, they moved. When fear said be careful, they charged. They understood that the only way to defeat fear is to make your actions louder than its whisper. So the next time you hear that voice saying not yet, ask yourself, is this really wisdom, or is it fear in disguise? And then no matter what the answer is, do the thing anyway. Because the only way to stay unstuck is to keep moving, especially when every fiber of your being is telling you to wait. 4. The 10-second rule that crushes fear. Fear operates on a timer. From the moment it strikes, you have exactly 10 seconds before it takes root. 10 seconds before hesitation becomes paralysis. 10 seconds before I should becomes I can't. But this timer works both ways. If you act within those 10 seconds, fear doesn't just lose, it never even gets started. Think about a diver standing at the edge of a high cliff. If they pause too long, the moment passes. The fear grows. The chance is lost. But if they leap within those first critical seconds, before fear has time to sink its claws in, the dive happens almost effortlessly. This isn't just true of diving. It's true of every action worth taking in life. A speaker who hesitates before walking on stage will freeze. A warrior who pauses before battle will die. A writer who stares at a blank page too long will never type the first word. Action must be immediate, because immediacy is the antidote to fear. Speed is the weapon. This is the 10-second rule. When you feel fear about doing something important, you have 10 seconds to physically move toward doing it. Not 10 seconds to think about it. Not 10 seconds to prepare. 10 seconds to act. See the job posting. Apply within 10 seconds. Have an idea. Write the first sentence within 10 seconds. Need to have a difficult conversation. Start speaking within 10 seconds. Why does this work? Because fear is a slow poison, but action is an instant cure. When you move before fear has time to take hold, you bypass its power completely. You're not fighting fear, you're outrunning it. This isn't theory. This is how every high performer operates. Whether they realize it or not, they've trained themselves to act in that critical window before fear can talk them out of it. They don't wait for courage. They don't wait for confidence. They act first, and courage follows. Try it right now with something small. Is there an email you've been avoiding? A call you've been putting off? Set a timer for 10 seconds and hit send or dial the number before it goes off. Notice how the fear evaporates the moment the action is taken. That's not coincidence. That's the rule in action. The beautiful thing about the 10-second rule is that it gets easier with practice. At first, you might only beat fear some of the time, but each victory weakens fear's grip and strengthens yours, until eventually acting quickly becomes automatic. You'll find yourself moving toward challenges instead of away from them, not because you're fearless, but because you've learned how to outmaneuver fear before it can stop you. Remember, fear can't catch what it can't keep up with. Stay 10 seconds ahead, and fear will always be left behind. 5. The mirror technique. What warriors use. The mirror doesn't lie. It shows you exactly what's there. No filters, no flattery, just raw truth staring back at you. This is why warriors have used it as a weapon against fear for thousands of years. Not to admire themselves, but to confront themselves. To look directly into their own eyes and speak commands that reshape reality. Here's how it works. You stand before a mirror first thing in the morning, when your mind is most vulnerable to reprogramming. You lock eyes with your own reflection, and you speak these words aloud with absolute conviction. I control my mind. Fear does not control me. Simple words, but when delivered with intensity, day after day they become seismic. This isn't some fluffy self-help trick. This is psychological warfare against your weakest self. Ancient Spartan commanders did this before battle. Samurai warriors had their own version. Modern champions in every field continue this tradition because it works on a primal level. When you declare dominion over your own mind while staring into your own eyes, something shifts at the deepest layers of your psyche. The magic happens in the repetition. One morning won't change you, but 30 mornings, that rewires your nervous system. By day 10, you'll notice the hesitation before speaking. By day 20, the words will come easier. By day 30, you'll feel the truth of them in your bones. The reflection looking back at you will stand taller, speak firmer, carry itself differently. Why does this simple act hold such power? Because most people spend their entire lives avoiding this kind of direct confrontation with themselves. They'll look in mirrors to fix their hair or check their appearance, but never to have an actual conversation with the person staring back. That avoidance creates weakness. The mirror technique destroys it. Every morning you do this, you're depositing courage into your mental bank account. You're building what the ancients called moral fiber, the unshakable inner strength that allows a person to stand firm when others crumble. This isn't about vanity or ego. It's about developing the kind of self-command that makes fear irrelevant. The words matter less than how you say them. They must be spoken not as a hopeful wish, but as a declaration of fact. Not I hope to control my mind, but I control my mind. Not maybe fear won't control me, but fear does not control me. This distinction is everything. You're not asking permission from the universe. You're informing the universe how things are. Watch what happens in your body as you do this. At first, you might feel silly. Your voice might crack. Your eyes might want to look away. This is the fear fighting back. But each day you push through. You become more comfortable with discomfort. Your voice grows steadier. Your gaze holds longer. Your presence becomes more commanding. First in the mirror, then in the world. After 30 days, you won't just be saying the words. You'll believe them. And when you truly believe you control your mind, fear has no power over you. It may whisper, but it can no longer make you obey. That's when you become dangerous to your limitations, to your excuses, to everything standing between you and your potential. 6. How to turn fear into fuel. Your body is lying to you. That pounding heart, those quickened breaths, the tension in your muscles. You've been taught to call this fear, but it's not. It's pure, undiluted energy waiting to be directed. The greatest achievers in history didn't overcome this feeling. They harnessed it. They took what others called fear and used it as rocket fuel. Here's the secret they all knew. Fear and excitement produce identical physical sensations. The same adrenaline rush before a speech fuels both the comedian who kills and the one who bombs. The same nervous energy before a big game powers both champions and choke artists. The difference isn't in the body's reaction, it's in the mind's interpretation. Next time you feel what you call fear, try this experiment. Say out loud, "This isn't fear, this is energy. This is power." Then channel it immediately into action. Speak faster. Move with purpose. Let the energy flow through you rather than freeze you. This simple shift in framing transforms paralysis into propulsion. Think of the last time you were truly excited about something. Maybe a first date, a big game, or an important opportunity. Remember how your body felt? Now remember how it feels when you're afraid. Identical. The only difference was the label you gave it in your mind. One you welcomed, one you resisted. But the raw material was exactly the same. This explains why some people thrive under pressure while others crumble. It's not that the first group doesn't feel the intensity. They've just learned to interpret the signals differently. Where you see danger, they see opportunity. Where you see threat, they see challenge. They're not experiencing different physiology. They're assigning different meaning. The implications are staggering. It means what you've been calling stage fright could be stage excitement. What you've called performance anxiety could be performance anticipation. The sensations don't change, the experience does, and with it, your results. This isn't positive thinking, it's strategic reframing. When astronauts first went to space, their heart rates hit 180 during liftoff, the same as sheer terror, but they called it exhilaration. When elite athletes step onto the field, their bodies scream with the same intensity as someone in mortal danger. They call it readiness. You can do this with anything. Public speaking, that's not fear, it's the energy to captivate a room. A difficult conversation, not anxiety, the power to communicate clearly. A career risk, not terror, the excitement of a new chapter. The sensations remain. Your ability to use them transforms. Start small. Notice the next time your body reacts to a challenge. Observe the physical signs without labeling them. Then consciously choose. This is my body preparing for action. Feel the difference as the energy finds an outlet rather than turning inward. With practice, this becomes automatic. Soon you'll stop dreading the feelings you once called fear. You'll recognize them for what they are. Your body's way of rising to the occasion. That's when everything changes. That's when you stop avoiding challenges and start seeking them. Not despite the intensity, but because of it. Not in spite of the energy, but to use. This is how ordinary people accomplish extraordinary things. Not by eliminating fear, but by redirecting its energy. Not by calming their nerves, but by weaponizing them. The sensations never go away. They just stop being your enemy and start being your advantage. That's the shift that changes everything. That's how fear becomes fuel. 7. The brutal truth about failure. Failure is a myth, a story we tell ourselves to justify giving up. A label we slap on experiences that didn't go our way to make ourselves feel better about quitting. But here's the raw, unfiltered truth. Failure doesn't exist in reality. Only in our interpretation of events. What we call failure is nothing more than information, data points on the graph of progress, lessons written in the language of experience. Think about how we learn anything as children. A baby doesn't fall while learning to walk and think, I'm bad at walking. They don't fail to form a sentence perfectly the first time and decide, I'll never speak. They try, adjust, and try again without judgment, without drama, without the crushing weight of self-imposed meaning. Somewhere along the way, we unlearn this natural process and replace it with fear. We start treating every misstep as proof we shouldn't keep going rather than exactly what it is, part of the process. The people who change the world understand this at a cellular level. They don't see closed doors, they see doorknobs that need turning differently. They don't see rejection, they see redirection. They don't see defeat, they see data. This isn't positive thinking, this is strategic thinking. When a scientist runs an experiment that doesn't yield the expected result, they don't call it a failure. They call it valuable information that narrows the path to discovery. This same approach applied to life is what separates those who achieve from those who only dream. Consider this. Every major innovation in human history came on the heels of what most would call failure. The light bulb wasn't invented in one try, it was the result of hundreds of failed experiments, each one eliminating what didn't work to reveal what. Every great artist, entrepreneur, and pioneer has a graveyard of attempts behind their successes. The difference wasn't that they didn't experience setbacks. The difference was that they didn't interpret those setbacks as final. Here's how to apply this. Remove the word failure from your vocabulary. Replace it with feedback. When something doesn't go as planned, ask, what is this teaching me? Not why is this happening to me? Look for patterns in the feedback, not proof of inadequacy. This shift changes everything. Suddenly, a rejected proposal isn't proof you're bad, it's information about how to improve. A lost sale isn't evidence you should quit, it's insight into your customer's real needs. A public stumble isn't reason to hide, it's practice for next time. The most successful people aren't those who never fall. They're those who fall, learn, adjust, and rise over and over until what was once difficult becomes effortless. They understand that mastery isn't the absence of mistakes, but the refinement of them. That expertise isn't about knowing everything, but about knowing how to learn from everything. So the next time you face what the world calls failure, remember, you're not failing. You're gathering the exact intelligence you need to succeed. The only true failure is stopping, because you misinterpreted the data. 8. The 24-hour fear killer. Fear survives on avoidance. It grows in the space between I should and I will. The longer you wait to face it, the bigger it becomes in your mind. A monster fed by hesitation. But there's a way to starve it to death in just one day. Here's how. For the next 24 hours, you're going to do one thing every hour that scares you. Not life-threatening stunts, but the small, everyday fears that hold you back. Send that message you've been overthinking. Speak up in a meeting instead of staying quiet. Wear something that draws attention. Ask for what you really want. Make that call you've been avoiding. At first, this will feel uncomfortable. That's the point. By hour 3, you'll notice something strange. The fear doesn't hit as hard. By hour 6, you'll start anticipating the next challenge rather than dreading it. By hour 12, fear will begin to feel like a joke, a paper tiger you can't believe ever intimidated you. And by hour 24, you'll wonder why you ever listened to it at all. This works because fear is a habit, and habits are broken through consistent, deliberate action. Most people feed their fear by avoiding it, which makes the fear stronger and themselves weaker. You're going to do the opposite. You're going to attack fear systematically until it has no choice but to retreat. Each small act of courage builds what psychologists call self-efficacy, the unshakable belief that you can handle what comes. It's not about the specific actions you take, but about proving to yourself that you can act despite discomfort, that you can feel fear and move forward anyway, that you're stronger than your avoidance. Here's why 24 hours matters. Fear thrives on being occasional. When you face it sporadically, it always feels new and intimidating. But when you confront it hourly, something shifts. The novelty wears off. The pattern becomes clear. You see fear for what it really is, a temporary sensation, not a permanent barrier. By the end of the day, you'll have created what no book or motivational speech can give you. Lived evidence that fear can't stop you. Not theoretical knowledge, not hopeful ideas. Cold, hard proof from your own experience that you're capable of more than you imagine. This isn't about eliminating fear completely. That's impossible. It's about resetting your relationship with fear so it no longer controls you. After this day, when fear whispers you can't, you'll have 24 concrete memories of times you did. That's power no one can take from you. So start now, not tomorrow when you're ready. Now when it still feels uncomfortable. The clock is ticking, and your freedom is on the other side of these next 24 hours. 9. Why fear never fully disappears, and why that's good. The greatest lie ever sold about fear is that you can eliminate it completely. That one day, after enough success or confidence or experience, you'll wake up and never feel afraid again. This is dangerous nonsense. Fear never leaves completely, and that's exactly how it should be. Fear is the compass that points to where you need to grow. It's the shadow that proves you're standing in the light. The moment you stop feeling fear is the moment you stop challenging yourself. Stop pushing boundaries. Stop living fully. Think about the most accomplished people in any field. The elite athletes still get butterflies before big game. The veteran performers still feel nerves before stepping on stage. The seasoned entrepreneurs still experience doubt before major launches. This isn't weakness, it's wisdom. Their fear hasn't disappeared, they've simply developed a different relationship with it. They've learned to interpret the pounding heart and sweaty palms not as warnings to retreat, but as signals that they're about to do something worthwhile. Your body's fear response is ancient technology perfected over millions of years to keep you alive. When you try to shut it off completely, you're not becoming brave, you're becoming reckless. The true master doesn't seek to destroy fear, but to harness it. Like a skilled sailor using the wind, even when it blows against them, they find a way to let it propel them forward. The fear isn't the enemy. Your interpretation of it is. This explains why so many people self-sabotage when they start seeing success. Subconsciously, they miss the fear that used to drive them. Without that edge, they feel dull, disconnected from their purpose. The most dangerous place isn't being paralyzed by fear, it's being comfortable with stagnation. At least fear proves you're alive, that you care, that you're playing for keeps rather than just going through the motion. The healthiest mindset recognizes fear as the price of admission for anything meaningful. If you're not feeling it, you're not growing. If it doesn't unsettle you at least a little, you're not aiming high enough. The goal was never to become fearless, but to become someone who acts despite the fear, who understands that the presence of fear doesn't mean something's wrong. It means something's right, that you're exactly where you need to be. This changes everything. No more waiting for fear to disappear before you act. No more beating yourself up for feeling afraid. No more comparing your insides to other people's outsides. Just a simple recognition. Fear is part of the process, not an obstacle to overcome, but a companion on the journey. The day you make peace with this is the day fear loses its power to control you. 10. The final step. How to stay fear-free forever. Fear survives in the dark corners of your mind where you refuse to look. It thrives on vagueness, on what-ifs, on imagined catastrophes you never fully examine. There's a way to kill it permanently, not by running away, but by turning directly toward it and shining the brightest light you have. Here's how. Take out a pen and paper. At the top, write, what am I really afraid of? Then list every fear holding you back right now. The big ones, the small ones, the ridiculous ones you're embarrassed to admit. No filter. When you think you're done, dig deeper. Keep going until you've exposed them all. Now for each fear, ask 2 questions. What's the absolute worst that could happen? Could I survive that? Be brutally specific. If you're afraid of public speaking, the worst case isn't just I'll embarrass myself. Spell it out. My mind will go blank, I'll stumble over my words, people will laugh at me, I'll be humiliated, and never asked to speak again. Then honestly assess. Could you survive that? Of course you could. People survive far worse every day. This exercise does something remarkable. It transforms amorphous dread into concrete scenarios. And here's the secret. 99% of fears evaporate under this scrutiny because they can't withstand the light of day. They're paper tigers, terrifying shadows that disappear when examined directly. Those are legitimate concerns worth preparing for, not running from. The warrior preparing for battle doesn't ignore his fear of death. He makes his will, writes letters to loved ones, then fights with complete focus. The entrepreneur doesn't pretend failure isn't possible. She plans contingencies, then moves forward fully committed. This is the difference between courage and foolishness. Courage stares fear in the face, acknowledges it, then acts anyway. Foolishness either cowers before fear or denies it exists. After doing this exercise, you'll notice three changes. The fears you wrote down will lose their grip because you've robbed them of their power to lurk in shadows. You'll recognize that even the worst-case scenario is survivable. You'll gain clarity on which fears require preparation versus which were just mental ghosts. This isn't a one-time fix but a practice. Whenever new fears emerge, and they will, bring them into the light immediately. Write them down, examine them, challenge them. The more you do this, the quicker fears lose their power over you. Eventually, you'll develop what the ancients called fearlessness. Not the absence of fear, but the certainty that no fear can stop you. That's true freedom. That's how you stay fear-free forever. Not a feeling, not a fact, a choice. And starting today, you choose freedom.